Hi, I'm Amina. I'm a senior software developer at TechLift Solutions, where I've spent the last 3 years building apps that help small businesses compete with the big guys. Not that my mother would know or care about any of that. The Christmas dinner table at my parents' suburban home looked like something out of a Hallmark movie. Roast turkey, cranberry sauce, twinkling lights, and my mother Maggie's picture-perfect table setting. My boyfriend Daniel squeezed my hand under the table as my father Rob carved the turkey. So, Jake, how's the new position treating you? Dad asked my brother, who was sitting across from me with that smug smile he's had since we were kids. Actually, I have some news. Jake straightened his posture, looking around the table. I got promoted to regional sales director yesterday. Comes with a company car and a 30% raise. The table erupted in congratulations. My mother practically glowed. That's my boy, always reaching for the stars. Mom raised her wine glass. A toast to Jake, the pride of the family. I forced a smile. Congrats, Jake. What about you, Amina? Still doing that computer thing? Mom asked, not bothering to hide her disinterest. I just led development on an app that increased our clients' revenue by 40%. We're up for an industry award next month. Mom barely looked at me. How nice. Sophia, pass the potatoes to your brother. He needs his strength for his important job. My younger sister Sophia caught my eye with an apologetic look as she passed the bowl. Amina's job is important too, Maggie, Daniel said politely. Her team's work is revolutionary in the small business space. Mom pursed her lips. Well, I suppose someone has to do those sorts of jobs. Not everyone can be exceptional like Jake. I felt my cheeks burn. 3 years of therapy had taught me to let these comments slide, but something inside me was reaching a breaking point. Hey, did anyone hear about Aunt Vivian's new vacation home? Dad attempted to change the subject. Speaking of homes, Mom continued, Jake is looking at houses in Cedar Heights, such a prestigious neighborhood. I'm actually buying a condo downtown, I mentioned. The paperwork's almost done. A condo? Why waste money on that when you could save for a real house? This is why you're struggling while Jake thrives. I'm not struggling, Mom. My company values me. If only your family could... Jake laughed, disguised as a joke. Mom sighed dramatically. Sometimes I wonder where we went wrong with you, Amina. You know, at the Hendersons' party, everyone was talking about their children's accomplishments. I had plenty to say about Jake and even Sophia's internship. But when it came to you, she shook her head. You're the most useless child we have. The table went silent. Daniel's hand tightened around mine. Wow, Mom. Thanks for that. I set down my fork carefully. You know what's actually useless? Spending 30 years trying to earn the approval of someone who decided I wasn't worth it before I could even walk. I looked directly into her shocked eyes. I've built systems that help hundreds of businesses succeed. I make 6 figures. I volunteer teaching coding to kids. But sure, I'm useless because I don't brag about it or choose a career you can show off at your country club. How dare you speak to me that way? Mom gasped. How dare you speak to your daughter that way? Aunt Vivian countered from the end of the table. No one touched their food. No one spoke. For the first time in my life, I had answered back, and everyone went silent. The tension at the dinner table was thick enough to cut with a knife. Dad jumped up. I think it's time for dessert. Classic Rob move. Diffuse, deflect, deny. I stepped outside for air, Daniel following. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Can we talk after dinner? My room. Later, I knocked on Sophia's door. That was intense downstairs, Sophia said, sitting cross-legged on her bed. But honestly, it was awesome seeing Mom finally speechless. 25 years of built-up comebacks will do that. Remember my ballet recital? Sophia twisted her hair nervously. Mom spent the whole ride home talking about how Jake would have been better if he'd ever tried dancing. And my graduation when she complained my honors cords clashed with my gown. Meanwhile, Jake failed 3 classes senior year and she threw him a party for overcoming academic challenges. Sophia rolled her eyes. Has she ever said anything to you about my job? I asked. Sophia looked down. She tells everyone you're between careers and tinker with websites while living off Daniel's money. What? I make more than Daniel does. Last month at Aunt Carol's birthday, she told everyone you were laid off and too embarrassed to tell the family. My blood boiled. She's been spreading lies about me? It gets worse. She told Uncle Pete you borrowed money and never paid it back. 2 days later, at our apartment, Daniel suggested, "You need to document this behavior. Start keeping receipts." What, like record her? Maybe. Or save texts, emails, note dates and what was said. This is classic gaslighting. She's rewriting your reality. You sound like my therapist. Your therapist is right, and Sophia's experiencing the same thing. You're not crazy. I scrolled through family photos, stopping at one from Jake's graduation. Mom beaming, arm around Jake while I stood at the edge, half cropped out. The next morning I called Jake and asked to meet for coffee. "I'm busy with the new position," he said. "It's important, Jake. About Mom." At Starbucks, Jake was checking emails. "Make it quick, I've got a meeting." "Do you know Mom tells people I'm unemployed? That I borrow money and don't pay it back?" Jake looked uncomfortable. "She exaggerates sometimes." "That's not exaggeration. It's lying." "What do you want me to say, Amina? That Mom plays favorites? Fine, she does. And you're okay with that?" Look, it's easier to just go along with it. Being the golden child has its perks, but it comes with expectations too. "So you admit it. I'm not blind. But what am I supposed to do? Give up my spot? Then we'd both be disappointments. You could stand up for me, for Sophia. And risk becoming the family punching bag? No thanks. I earned my position by playing the game." "Some game," I muttered. "Family shouldn't be a competition." "Everything's a competition, sis. Mom just decided the winners a long time ago." I left the coffee shop fuming. Jake's admission bounced around in my head as I drove home. Daniel was waiting, laptop open on our kitchen counter. "How'd it go with your brother?" "He basically admitted Mom plays favorites and said it's just a game he's winning." "That's messed up." Daniel closed his laptop. "So what's the plan now?" "Plan? I don't have one beyond avoiding family gatherings for the next decade. What if we exposed her behavior? Not just to your family, but to herself." I poured myself coffee. "You want to hold up a mirror to a narcissist? Not just any mirror, an undeniable one, with evidence she can't twist." That night, I called Sophia. "I'm putting together proof of Mom's behavior. You in?" "About time. What do you need from me?" "Screenshots of texts, voicemails, anything showing her comparing us or spreading lies." "I've got 3 years of text messages. She once told me I should study hard like Jake because I wasn't naturally bright like him. Perfect. Send everything." A week later, Aunt Vivian called out of the blue. "Your Christmas comeback is legendary, kiddo. About time someone stood up to my sister." "You noticed her behavior before?" "Honey, everyone notices. Nobody says anything because Maggie has a way of making life hell for people who cross her." "Would you be willing to back me up? I'm collecting evidence." "Count me in. That woman needs a reality check." 2 weeks later, my big presentation at TechLift was approaching. A pitch to our biggest potential client yet. I'd mentioned it at Christmas, though nobody except Daniel seemed to care. The morning of the presentation, my phone rang. "Amina, sweetie, are you sitting down?" Mom's fake concerned voice made my stomach clench. "What is it?" "I just got off the phone with Christina Davis. You remember her from my garden club? Her husband works at Meridian Corp. Aren't they the company you're presenting to today?" My blood ran cold. Meridian was indeed our potential client. "What did you do?" "I merely mentioned your anxiety issues from college. How you had that terrible panic attack during your final presentation. Christina was concerned her husband's company might be making a mistake." I hit record on my phone. "Let me get this straight. You deliberately tried to sabotage my career by lying to a client?" "Lying? I'm looking out for you. You've never handled pressure well." "I've never had a panic attack in my life." "Well, that's not how I remember it." I hung up and immediately emailed my boss, explaining the situation. Then I called Christina's husband directly, introduced myself professionally, and clarified the misunderstanding. The presentation went perfectly. That weekend was Dad's birthday party. I brought a special gift, a digital photo frame preloaded with family photos. When Mom saw it, she couldn't resist commenting. Digital photos, so impersonal. Jake got your father golf lessons with a pro. I smiled sweetly. Why don't we turn it on? The first photo showed Mom beaming with Jake. The second showed her grimacing next to me at graduation. Then came screenshots of her texts to Sophia, comparing her unfavorably to Jake. Finally, transcripts of her lies about my employment. What is this? Mom hissed. It's called accountability, Mom. Dad stared at the evidence, his face hardening. Maggie, what the hell is all this? Mom snatched the photo frame from Dad's hands. This is ridiculous. These messages are taken completely out of context. There is no context where telling Sophia she has half of Jake's potential is acceptable, Dad said, his voice uncharacteristically firm. The birthday party disintegrated into chaos. 2 months later, we all gathered for the annual Thompson family reunion at my grandparents' lake house. I almost skipped it, but Daniel convinced me to go. You've got nothing to hide. She does. The reunion was tense from the start. Mom had strategically seated me at the kids' table, away from the adults. I quietly moved my place setting next to Daniel at the main table. That seat is for Aunt Carol, Mom announced loudly as everyone was settling in. Actually, Carol is sitting with Uncle Pete, I replied calmly. There's plenty of room here. Mom waited until midway through dinner when everyone was engaged in conversation, to strike. So, Amina, I heard TechLift is having layoffs. Should we be concerned? The table didn't go silent this time, but several conversations paused. Actually, we just secured the Meridian contract, the one you tried to sabotage by calling Christina's husband. Mom laughed nervously. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone. I have the recording of our call right here. Want me to play it for everyone? You recorded me? That's illegal. Single-party consent state, Mom. Totally legal. Cousin Ellie leaned forward. What do you mean she tried to sabotage your contract? I explained exactly what Mom had done, playing key parts of the recording. Aunt Vivian nodded along, adding, Maggie did the same thing when Amina applied to Stanford. Told the alumni interviewer she had emotional problems. Is this true? Dad asked, face reddening. I was protecting her. She wasn't ready for Stanford. I had a 4.0 GPA and was valedictorian, I countered. How exactly was I not ready? You've always been so dramatic, Amina, Mom said, looking around for support. Nobody met her eyes. No, Mom, you're the dramatic one. You've been tearing me down my entire life while building Jake up and lying about me to the family. Your sister is right, Sophia chimed in. You do the same to me, just not as badly. Jake stared at his plate. Dad stood up, napkin dropping to the floor. Enough, Maggie. I've ignored this for too long. You've been playing favorites with our children their entire lives, and I let it happen. Rob, you can't possibly. I can and I am. I've seen the evidence. I've watched it happen. No more. Mom's demeanor shifted instantly, tears forming. I'm sorry if you felt that way, Amina. I only wanted what was best. Save it. That's not an apology. That's damage control. What do you want from me? I'm your mother. I want nothing from you anymore, that's the point. In the months that followed, everything changed. Dad moved into the guest room, then eventually got his own place. Jake started therapy, realizing how Mom's favoritism had shaped him. Sophia and I grew closer than ever. Mom tried to save face socially, but word spread. Her garden club presidency went to someone else. Bridge night invitations dried up. Last week, Daniel proposed. We're planning a small wedding, just Dad, Sophia, Aunt Vivian, and friends who actually support me. Mom sent a text. I should be involved in my daughter's wedding. I replied with a single word. No. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't elaborate schemes or public humiliation. It's simply living well without toxic people. And finally, that's exactly what I'm doing. What would you have done in Amina's position? Would you have publicly exposed your mother's toxic behavior to the entire family, or handled it privately? And at what point do you think a parent's actions become unforgivable? If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Many of us have dealt with toxic family dynamics, and your perspective might help someone who's going through something similar right now. Subscribe for more stories about standing up to toxic people and reclaiming your power. New videos every day that will have you saying, I can't believe they did that.